how does ADHD and other neurodivergencies specifically affect someone's relationship with clutter, organization, the whole process?
They're overwhelmed, they're ashamed. Where do they start? How do you get beyond that?
Right. It's not my job to tell anybody what to get rid of. It's my job to guide them.
Welcome to the Empowered Elder Podcast.
Previously on the Empowered Elder Podcast.
We have to stop thinking that everything is important, because then we'll never let go of anything and we'll always be surrounded by too much stuff.
Welcome back to the Empowered Elder Podcast. In the first episode of our conversation with Beth Blacker, we explored the emotional side of clutter, why downsizing can feel so overwhelming for older adults, and how shame often prevents people from asking for help.
Beth also shared her own journey, including how receiving an ADHD diagnosis later in life gave her a new understanding of both her personal strengths and the deeper reasons many people struggle with organization and overwhelm.
In today's continuation, we're diving deeper into practical strategies families can use during major transitions, how to preserve memories without keeping everything, and why advocacy and compassion are essential when supporting seniors through downsizing and relocation.
Because these transitions are never just logistical. They're emotional, personal, and often tied to identity, independence, and dignity.
So let's continue our conversation with Beth Blacker. What do you see when transitions or when they are seem to be rushed? What are the fallouts when that happens?
Sadly, death can happen. I'm not kidding. We had that happen to one client who I felt like the realtor rushed her through the listing time, the pre-listing time. When he called me, he said that he wanted it listed in 2 weeks. Could we do it? And I said, well, that depends on her. He's like, no, I need it done in 2 weeks because I'm going on vacation.
Well, that was pretty self-serving.
Yeah, that's not.
No.
Yeah,
That didn't. And sadly, he was pressuring her for those 2 weeks. We didn't get it listed in the 2 weeks. But nevertheless, he was pressuring her, and she ended up dying from congestive heart failure. I mean, I really do believe she died of a broken heart. Her husband had died 6 months before, but I think, her heart was broken and the realtor pushed her over the edge.
So this is an exact example of why we say just because a real estate professional can help you doesn't mean they should.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. The timing is hard for a lot of people. They want so desperately to age in place, but once any kind of health event happens and you don't have everything set up and ready to go, it becomes the decision of other people, what comes with you.
Right.
I have a client later this week like that. They're like, we had to, there was an event and went into the hospital, then into rehab, and now straight to assisted living. Some people never come out of rehab.
Mm-hmm.
I had a client like that who I was helping do a lot of downsizing, and she kept saying, oh, I'll deal with that when I get into assisted living. And I said, well, but we should probably deal with it now, because what if something happens? It's fine. She was 93.
Wow.
I mean, the likelihood was something was going to happen. She never made it to assisted living. She died in rehab. So, it's sad. It's very sad when that happens.
I can even see like if families are rushing too. So from an internal perspective, especially maybe if you have siblings and there's just, more than one person who's trying to make it as, decide how quickly to move, and the parent or the elder may feel one way, and then there's siblings that could be conflicting and butting heads too, that could cause some conflict, changing the pace.
Yeah, I don't want to be in the middle of those battles. I have sadly seen a couple, they didn't get divorced while I was working with them. But I heard 6 months later they did get divorced because she had spent 20 years surrounded by all of his clutter and finally decided it was time. And she spent over a month every day I was there. And some of the days I had a big team of people. We were cleaning out the basement and the garage and every place in the house. And she said, if you do this again, if I see signs of it again, that's going to be it. It was over $50,000 that she ended up spending to do all this work. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot. I don't even remember. I think we had the dumpster refilled. If not, it wasn't every day, but probably over the course of the month, I think there were 20
That's a
dumpster
lot.
pickups.
That is
Yeah.
certainly a lot.
Yeah.
So you speak
Yeah.
a lot about how ADHD can overwhelm the process. How does ADHD and other neurodivergencies specifically affect someone's relationship with clutter, organization, the whole process?
Again, it's kind of divided, because I identify as being neurodivergent now since I was diagnosed with ADHD, and I never liked clutter. But my daughter was fine and still is to some degree fine being surrounded by clutter. Does she know how to maintain and contain it a little bit better now? Yes, absolutely. But she still struggles with it at times. So, it really depends. I think that for somebody like me who never understood why it bothered me so much to see clutter, like I was that kid when my college roommate was a total slob. And I, went to the resident advisor from day one and said, I can't live like this. I'm like, well, it's college. What do you want us to do? I'm like, it's kind of gross. I mean, there's like food on the floor and, Coke cans spilling. No, actually, she was a Pepsi drinker. It was gross. It was really kind of gross. And so by the end of the first semester, I said, either you move me or, I don't know what to do. And the resident advisor said, well, why don't we just throw everything out the window and teach her a lesson that way? I'm like, are we legally allowed to do that? We were.
Wow.
We actually were.
Really?
We did. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The university allowed us to do it, and we did it, and yeah, and didn't seem to faze the girl at all. Everybody's different. Everybody's different. With seniors who maybe were undiagnosed their entire life, and never, I was helping a woman recently who has a very serious mouse infestation and has been living in a space for many years and just bought a house and thinks that her problem's going to be solved by now moving into a house. Well, all of that stuff that's currently in the place where she's living is contaminated.
Oh,
and I've tried to explain to her, you need to bring in a biohazard company. They need to clear everything out. Probably 90% of the stuff in here, you shouldn't move at all. And she just doesn't want to hear that. And, and in the court, and I should not even have been in that space. I went to try and, encourage her and make her understand how hard it is, because she only wanted one person in the space. I said, it's not possible. You're never going to get out of this space. And I'm not set up to do biohazard work. I'll wear a mask and gloves when it's, not bad, but look what's happening on that cruise ship right now with hantavirus. I'm in spaces all the time. And, sometimes it's just unavoidable. I mean, there are homes in Colorado that are just infested because of backing up to open space. And, sometimes it's just unavoidable. But where it is a situation that I am now convinced this woman probably has undiagnosed bipolar schizophrenia, something like that. Is it my responsibility to contact Adult Protective Services? That's a hard call. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys ever run into that situation where you feel like somebody is undiagnosed and needs the proper care that you obviously were not licensed to do?
Yeah, for sure. And, it opens up the conversation to other support personnel around, family, friends, neighbors, whatever, right?
But what if they don't have that? This woman just doesn't have it.
Yeah.
And that's the saddest part about what I see. And I'm sure it's a lot of what you see too.
Yeah, for sure.
Walking into a senior's home. I've been having more and more conversations with the Boulder Chamber. I happen to know the chamber president really well, and we talk a lot about the issues that even seniors in Boulder are facing, everybody thinks Boulder's so wealthy. And so if somebody's been in their home for 30, 40, 50 years, they must have a lot of money. They must have a lot of equity. Well, the house hasn't been well maintained for many years. So suddenly they get the appraisal and they're like, wait, that's not going to be enough money for me to move into senior living. And so all these supposedly real estate rich seniors are truly income poor, as John Taggart, the president of the chamber, would say. And it's a big problem, and it's only going to become a bigger problem for people. And that means a big problem for our community in general. And we
Sure.
have to start thinking of those creative ways of getting more of that organic turnover sooner rather than later. But asking a senior to give up their home that they're very comfortable in right now in anticipation that something might happen to them down the road, that's a hard sell, especially when they don't have a mortgage anymore and they're facing spending $5, $10, $15,000 a month in assisted living. Like, do the math, right?
Sure. But it comes down to it's more of a question of safety and security in the
Right.
aging in place scenario. And so
Right.
it's really about
Right.
understanding what are the options and where do we go from here, right?
Right.
Like our
Right.
role, just like yours, is to come in with our expertise. We're not experts in the whole entire realm of, what someone might need, but we do know how to ask the questions and find the resources.
Mhm.
And
Right.
so a lot of times it's just starting down that path. So when you're talking about the downsizing, the organization, and maybe helping someone who is just incredibly analysis paralysis mode, what do you do in terms of what organizational systems can you bring into play, and what conversations do you have in order to drive to that new reality that they could be experiencing?
Right. The new reality is that they may not be able to ever maintain systems completely
Sure.
100%, and that's okay.
Mhm.
That's okay. And it's okay at any age, quite frankly. I mean, again, it's back to the stigma that we place on people just because they can't do something that's neurotypical. I don't like that word at all. I think it really sets everybody up for feeling like they failed when they get a neurodivergent diagnosis. And that's a terrible way to set people up in life. But that's what we unfortunately do. But if they're really in that analysis paralysis mode, it may just mean that we have to take more time and not rush them to death. We don't want people dying on us because they're stressed out and anxious. This is the hardest move they probably will ever have made in their life, and hopefully the last move, but still incredibly hard. It's not just giving up a home; it's giving up a lot of independent feeling, and a lot of personal items that they felt comforted and nurtured by having all those years, right? So they need to face that new reality of having less, but believing that less is still more. That's part of my job is making them feel like they're still surrounded by things that bring them joy, but not to the point where it's unsafe
What
and
what
unhealthy.
about those individuals who might feel ashamed? I mean, they're already overwhelmed, but they're ashamed to have somebody come into their home and they're overwhelmed, they're ashamed. Where do they start? How do you approach that? Because awfully often enough that because of that shame, they might not want you to even come in the home.
Right.
So how do you get beyond that?
Right. And that is the first thing that most people say is, I can't even believe I have you on Zoom with me right now. This is so embarrassing. This isn't who I have been in the past. I don't understand what's happening to me. And again, it goes back to what's happening is growing old. And we can't reverse the clock, but we can at least try and again reduce the clutter, because that's going to help maintain things better. Or you know acknowledge in some of these senior living communities that maybe, just maybe, they should have somebody on staff who goes around and does regular well checks, who is making sure that things don't get completely out of control, and figuring out a way of supporting them, and making sure. The saddest jobs for us are when we get called in by Boulder Affordable Housing or any affordable housing department in any county, because usually those are the people that are close to being evicted, and they just need us to come in and do some kind of clearing and decluttering, and knowing full well they're never going to be able to maintain it, but they still have to do it to be compliant, and pass inspection. And we always get it to that place, but then we get called back and over again. Maybe what we need to understand that this is part of healthcare, and not see it as a luxury. I say this all the time. I don't think it's a luxury for most people. I think it's a necessity, and so it should be paid for, just like any other kind of healthcare. Even though I'm not licensed, our profession, professional organizers, doesn't even have a job code with the Bureau of Labor. That could be a good start for helping make us more credible in the eyes of society. The work we do is really hard, and it's underrated, I think, for the most part. I think that telling people to go see a therapist is never going to be enough. Because therapists aren't going to come into your home. Some are starting to. Occupational therapists are starting to do more clutter and hoarding type of therapy, but they still don't want to really do the hard work that we do, where we come in and start peeling back those layers. Finding what we call the low-hanging fruit, the stuff that, and this goes for any job that we do, but especially with seniors. Finding that corner that we can go to and immediately have success at decluttering, because that's going to fire off some endorphins for everybody in the room. If you believe in that kind of science, and I do, and I'd like to think more people in this country still do believe in science. I don't know. It seems to fade with each day that goes by, but I still believe in it. And I do believe that, getting set up for success. They talk about making your bed is a great way to set up yourself up for success for the beginning of the day, because you're firing off your endorphins right away and you're checking something off your mental to-do list that you don't even have to think about doing anymore. It's like brushing your teeth, going to the bathroom, eating meals. Those are just automatic things that we know to do, right? But we don't know to constantly be putting things away and decluttering. It gets harder and harder. We say all the time, don't just put something down, put it away. But it does get harder and harder as we age to, continue to do that, because fatigue sets in, and it doesn't matter to most people anymore. But it's still important. So we should have check-in systems of some kind, I believe, whether family, friends, volunteers from a religious organization, or maybe the senior living communities have to start hiring a company like mine, or having somebody on staff who can go in and help maintain. And it's not housekeeping. It's really just making sure things are being put away in logical places. Cleaning people don't necessarily have that. And I'm not taking away anything from a cleaning service, but that is not what they're supposed to be doing.
Sure.
I have my lane, they have their lane.
And you had mentioned too, I just want to circle back. You had said because of your profession, there's no licensure associated. So from a standpoint, for anyone who is looking to hire somebody to come into their parents' home or to their home to assist with the process of decluttering, how do you ensure somebody is reputable and somebody is, because you're letting them into your home around your
Yeah.
personal belongings. So what would be the process, or what you would suggest to somebody to make sure that they're on the right path?
I will answer that question, but first I want to say it's also a risk for me to walk into a stranger's
Yep,
home, because
absolutely.
I don't know
Mhm.
what I'll find.
Mhm.
And I've had those situations. I've had situations where people have attacked me or tried to attack me. It's very scary when that happens. But I would say, whether they hire me or anybody for that matter, any kind of service pro,
Mhm.
You have to fully vet them. Listen, when I date, I do a background check on the guy. And if he's insulted by that, too bad, too bad. And even doing a background check, you don't always know everything about that person. But I have, I think over 100 reviews on between Google and Thumbtack and wait, more than a couple hundred. I've been hired over 300 times on Thumbtack. I'm on their pro advisory board. I'm one of their top, ranked, high consistently. I think that carries a lot of weight and credibility. I'm a very active member of the community with the Boulder Chamber, the Superior Chamber, the Colorado Neurodiversity Chamber. I'm right now a member of the Institute for Challenging Disorganization. I went to their conference last year. I don't think I'm going to their conference this year. I might be going instead to the Senior Move Management Conference. And taking some courses through them. You can see if people have gotten any type of certification. A lot of people know about NAPO, which is the National Association for Productivity and Organization. I never joined it for my own personal reasons, but obviously have, I try and educate myself as much as possible and stay up on top of the trends and the information that's out there. I take my role really seriously. And I show up for people and, beyond just doing what we do. I mean, I deeply care about my clients because, I want them to be happy and healthy.
You make the importance of doing your due diligence, right? To make sure that, background check, if you're not going to do a background check, obviously, but do look at the reviews, look and see what certifications there before you just are. And if somebody's being referred from a community or, another business professional to, know who to work with. As we like to say, it's not only good to know who to work with, but who not to work with, right? So just having that and keeping in mind so that you're protecting your family and also making sure that you're going to have good results.
Yeah. I mean, I am a consummate networker. I am always out in the community meeting new resources, just like I met you guys. And I always refer people to my clients. When they ask me, I'm like, here's a list. I'll let you decide, but if you want, and I believe that, some service pros or pros in general are a better fit for one client versus another based on personality type. So I never want to make the decision for them, which mover they might use, which junk removal company which cleaning service, which realtor, which placement agent. I give them choices and let them do the interviewing. If they ask my opinion, I might offer it, but I still don't want the finger pointed at me if it goes sideways in any way. And that rarely happens. The worst thing that usually happens is maybe we have a bad weather day and the mover can't get to a house when we thought, or there was, some sort of, I don't know, flood emergency or something for a plumber and couldn't get to the house, when they were anticipating getting there. But overall, I really try and provide the best possible resources for my clients.
What are some signs that families can look for to identify when they need to bring in professional help during a transition?
Well, especially if they don't live here and if there's a sense of urgency, or they know that their parent will not cooperate with them, then I would say definitely call somebody in. I think that it's fine if adult children want to work side by side with me, but they still need to kind of let me have some degree of the control of the day and the process. I will consult with them if I feel like things are, starting to decompensate. But otherwise, if they're going to hire me, then let me do what I do. And they should be there to comfort their parents as much as possible, but try not to offer too many opinions.
Which can be hard.
Because that will muddy the waters.
That can be hard. That's probably a big challenge that you face, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's not my job to tell anybody what to get rid of. It's my job to guide them. You know, I understand that, you know, a paperclip can represent something really important to somebody. It means nothing to me, but to that person, a paperclip, a pen, whatever it may be. And trust me, I had somebody tell me about a paperclip being very important to her. It was the first one she used when she was collating her first brief that she did after graduating from law
Wow.
school. So I'm like, why haven't you framed it?
I know.
Put it on a necklace or something. I don't know. Dipped it in gold. I don't know. But she hadn't. But you know, she had it. Just like I have a petrified Tootsie Roll in my wallet that stays in my wallet. It was the last Tootsie Roll that I found when we were my mom and my grandmother. Tootsie Roll was their candy. Um, you know, and that's something that just is we always share Tootsie Rolls and chocolate chip cookies whenever our family is together. Those are our things. Took cookies with me to California to celebrate. I do this Have a Cookie and Smile Day on the anniversary of my mom's
That's
death.
cool.
And it was cool until we literally were on the way to the airport, and we stopped at this area in San Diego called Sunset Cliffs. And just as the sun was starting to set, I'm like, all right, we got to have the cookie before I get on the plane. We haven't done it yet. And my son bites into it and he's like, no, these don't taste right. I'm like, oh my God.
Oops.
Uh-oh.
He was right.
Yeah.
He was right. He was. Something was weird about them. It was the texture was off. They weren't hard enough. You know, we like them straight from the freezer usually, but
But it's
whatever.
the intention of the
It's true.
tradition.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, you know, again, my job is to help them. You know, that's how I preserve one of the memories of my mom for my kids is through making those cookies and having this annual day. I mean, there are so many different ways that you can preserve memories. You can, you know, take old T-shirts that were your kids and make them into quilts. You can make collages out of their artwork. You can make little books with stories behind them. You can do video recordings. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can preserve those memories. So, you know, hopefully, again, there's a comfort level before we even start. And again, I take a lot of pride in how I show up, even in a virtual consult with clients who are so nervous. I had a woman who approached me at an event and said, you know, I really want to help my sister. She really needs to downsize, but we've struggled through the years to help her. Do you think you can help her? And I said, well, you know, let me talk to her. Just tell her, look at my website, get a little comfort level, just knowing, you know, a little bit about me, and then we'll do a virtual consult. And we did one last week or the week before, and she sent me a text afterwards saying, I feel so much calmer after that conversation than I've ever felt about having this conversation surrounding clutter. And, you know, I love hearing that. I do. I mean, again, I'm not a therapist, but I have a heart and I have a very open mind. So, you know, that's really all that they can ask for is like having somebody who understands how hard this is for them.
It definitely is. It sounds like it's not just a process, that you bring compassion to the process. So it's taking it to that next
Right.
level. And it's just, you're not
Right.
coming in like a bulldozer and just say, do this, do this. It's like you bring heart to your process.
My daughter would have accused me of that when she was a teenager, coming in like a bulldozer.
That's a different story, right? For sure.
Totally different story.
Children think
But
differently.
Well, but still, you know, again, I didn't understand enough about her ADD and how she functioned, and I wasn't getting her set up for her version of organized success. So, you know, I understand that differently now. I really, really do. I just want people to be comfortable and feel like they still are surrounded by joy, but not overwhelming the space.
What gives you
That's
hope in working with families going through transitions like we've been talking about?
I mean, knowing that I've done this I don't know, thousands of times, I guess, at this point, and seeing the success, there are many more successes than failures. And nothing's a failure really. It's just another learning opportunity, whether for me or for the client. But again, it goes back to they have to really want to be doing this. And even if they are being pressured to do it because they are moving, they still have to want to do it. Because otherwise there's just nothing I can do. They're going to dig their heels in and I'm going to have to walk away. And I've had to do that. I've had to call the adult children who are out of state and say, I'm really sorry. There was screaming, there was yelling. And again, this is some of the extreme cases where maybe there's undiagnosed or unmedicated mental illness or cognitive decline going on. And, I can report it to the family. I can report it to the assisted living community. I can report it to Adult Protective Services, but ultimately it's not my job to fix them. I can't fix anybody. I really, really can't. So they have to want to do this.
No doubt.
On
Absolutely.
some level.
And if you had a message that you would want to leave with listeners to talk about, whether clutter or memory or just letting go, what is your overall message?
Just remember again that, as we continue to age, it would be lovely if we could, all have museums to put every single item we've ever had in our life in, but it's just not realistic. It really isn't. And that if we convince ourselves to keep too much, that continues to be a physical and mental burden. And that means aging that much faster. And why do you want that? Enjoy what years you have left. Go, the reason you're downsizing is so you have less to worry about. Go out and enjoy the activities that you're hopefully going to have wherever you're moving to. But if you're aging in place, go and not having the burden of taking care of so much stuff means you can go and do things instead of constantly be cleaning and decluttering.
Hence your company name.
Yeah,
it's just stuff.
And I was going to say, the last time I did I do Aging at Altitude. I don't know if you're familiar with that event. And when I did the event in October last year, they had me do a presentation, and I've done presentations for them several times, but last year it was the first time in the big social hall, and there was a woman sitting in the front row. And as I started talking, I see she's like getting kind of agitated, and then she gets up and walks out. And I go to my vendor table afterwards, and there's a note saying, I was so angry that you named your company It's Just Stuff, because it's not just stuff. And I'm like, yeah, if you had stayed to listen to the presentation, you would have heard, I understand that it's not just stuff, but we put it goes back to, if everything is valuable, nothing is valuable. If all the stuff is valuable, then you're never going to get rid of
That's
it.
right.
You have to start understanding that some things just should not carry that much importance as you carry on in life.
That's fair.
It's just that we don't have space for it.
Absolutely.
We just don't. And don't put it in storage, because that's where
It goes
things
in
just
and it never comes
that's
out.
what's supposed to die.
The black hole.
Yeah. It's the black hole. I had a woman who over 15 years spent over $75,000 on storage.
That's a lot of storage. That's quite a hefty fee. I don't know if you've listened to our podcast, but we typically like to kind of close with a lightning round. So we will ask you a series of questions. Just want you to either one word, one sentence, your first instinct as to a response to the question. Okay. So the first one is one word you would use to describe home.
Peace.
The most underrated organizing habit.
Underrated or making your bed every day. First thing. Yeah. Because it does set you up for success.
Mm-hmm. One item people hold on to for far too long.
Oh, so many. too many photographs of people that they didn't even know. Or don't talk to anymore. Don't want to talk to. Why have that negative energy?
True.
Agree.
Yeah. Paper, a lot of paper.
What's your favorite way to decompress after a stressful day?
Whiskey.
Fair.
That is fair.
You've earned it.
As the weather keeps getting warmer, obviously, and we have longer nights, I going for a walk, yoga. I love the summer concerts, the free concerts, going dancing with my friends, hiking. Yeah,
Perfect.
I have a lot of things to decompress.
Okay. A small change that instantly creates calm in a space.
I would say committing to not having anything on as little as possible on your kitchen counter, because that should be a safe place where you go and nurture everybody. So any way you can figure out of keeping as little as possible on your counter.
What's your best advice for adult children helping aging parents?
Don't. Leave it to the experts. I mean, we already talked about that, right? Understanding that they don't want to be a burden, that they don't want to be difficult, that it's just really hard. It is very, very, very hard. And especially the generation behind me, my kids, they're much more into experiences, as am I at this point in my life. But most of my generation and generations above, I think, still attach too much meaning to items and don't experience enough things. So,
absolutely. Yeah. Okay. The final one is, what gives you hope about aging today?
Conversations that I am hearing that seem to be happening more and more about longevity and solutions to some of the problems. I know the statistic that gets thrown out a lot is that by 2040, there's going to be over 80 million Americans over the age of 65, and we just don't have the systems in place right now to fully accommodate those that number. So my hope is that by the time I really do need to consider any type of downsizing and transitioning to other type of housing, that there are much more affordable and clean and safe solutions than there currently are.
Beth, thank you so much for spending time with us today. We really appreciate it. And I mean, you're clearly educated and kind of on the path of knowing what you're doing with helping families. And we really, really recognize that and want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for all that you do as well.
Today's conversation reminds us that creating calm isn't about perfection. It's about compassion. It's about understanding the emotional stories attached to our belongings and recognizing that every transition deserves patience, dignity, and care.
Beth Blacker shared something incredibly important today. Letting go of physical objects doesn't mean letting go of the memories, relationships, or the meaning connected to them. And when families approach these transitions with empathy instead of judgment, the process becomes less overwhelming.
Beth, thank you for the work you're doing through It's Just Stuff to support seniors, caregivers, and neurodivergent individuals during some of life's most emotional transitions. Your work is helping people move from chaos to calm in ways that honor both their spaces and their stories.
And if today's conversation resonated with you, we encourage you to check the show notes for resources, information about Beth's work, and ways to connect with It's Just Stuff.
We're your hosts, Tasha Beckman and Nicole Rabalado, and this is the Empowered Elder Podcast, where we talk about home, heart, and the next chapter of life.